Hi, good evening. Thank you all for being here. Today, our special guests are comedian Bruce Smirnoff and Steve Cohen, who is the behind-the-scenes producer guru for Surviving the Survivor. So thank you both so much.
Thanks for having me, Judy. I'm very excited to be on with you and Bruce.
Thank you, Judy.
Hi again. Yeah, Bruce has been on a bunch of times. So, Steve, you basically came on that one time to be Charlie Adelson when you and I read the Dolce Vita transcript. So, do you want to start first? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. My background is in media. I was a radio. I started in radio, then I went to worked in TV. I worked at the CBS Early Show. I worked at Good Day New York. Worked at WCBS Radio. I've been in media a long time, and now probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I started working with different people, some podcasters, and some personalities, and just doing a lot of different things. And during the pandemic, I connected with Joel, who I knew, like, we're both contemporaries. We both worked together at Fox 5, but I wouldn't say I was particularly close to them, and they were interested in doing a podcast. And I connected with them. I felt that in the beginning, I think Joel and Carmela didn't really have a focus. And I felt that this story was ideal for them for a lot of reasons. And it did have the Jewish angle. It did have that they were in Miami. It did have what people on TV talk about, the 4 C's, which is, consequences, characters, comedy, conflict. It certainly has all of those, as I know you guys know. I also knew that, we could service people and do it and it maintain their curiosity. And so it's been great, to follow it. I felt that in news, people do it because you want to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. And I feel like it's been great to do. And, I'll leave it there. It's funny, like Judy was like, talk more, because I'm sick and I usually don't have any problem with that. It's that old joke. Like one person said, one time I didn't talk to Steve for 2 months. I didn't want to interrupt him. So I'm usually motor mouth. So I'm going to just check myself before I wreck myself.
Okay, that's funny. Okay, what about you, Bruce? Do you want to give a quick summary?
Yeah, I've never given oral biography before. I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, which is a suburb of New York City. My father had a grocery store, and we were in the motel business growing up. I went to Boston University Film School of Communications with a major in film. But as soon as I got to college and I left the small suburban life, I wanted to be a comedian. So when I was, I think 8, we went to a Catskill resort called Grossinger's, which is one of the most famous places. And I saw a comedian named Dick Shawn, who was very famous in the movie The Producers with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. Excuse me. And something happened, something clicked. And then when I got to college, I had never really been in a big city. So I started to pursue performing, which there wasn't a lot of, but whatever it was, I was afflicted by the show business bug. So I got through college, but then I immediately moved to Los Angeles, and I was there for 23 years. And during that period of time, I went from not really knowing what I was doing. I built my career. I had many bouts with fame, but not everybody breaks through, and I'm an example of that. But I've had experiences with stars galore. A lot of my friends became very famous, and about I think in 2000 I left to go live in New York because that was another dream. So I moved to New York, but I had been so used to the Los Angeles, laid back lifestyle that it was too intense for me. So after about 1.5 years, I moved to Florida, wanting to get out of show business. I wanted to open up, because I know nothing about how to operate a business. I wanted to find someone and open up a coin operated laundry, just something simple. And I couldn't even do that. But while I was here, Steve, where your parents live in one of these communities, I was found by the agents down here that book all these country clubs and senior living and the cruise ships. And I started like this second career of really knowing you won't achieve fame, but you'll make some really good money. And I spent about, I'd say 16, 17 years working the cruise ships and the condos. And I retired about right before COVID. Coincidentally, I had my last gig like 3 days before the lockdown. And since then, I've had no real desire to go back into it. And that brings me up to date. I'm not a fan of true crime. I never watched law shows. I watched LA Law when I lived in LA, but you'll get a kick out of this, Steve and Judy. When I'd be on the ships, I did what are called 5-star cruises because I appeal to, I guess, people that, you know, as opposed to regular people, there's the high-end people. And I met people like the Adelsons, not that they were going around murdering people, but I met people of that ilk, and they were great people. They were so generous and so successful, and I still am in touch with a lot of these people today. So when I heard about this case in 2014, like immediately after, I said, man, this is just like this family that I know from the ship, and these people I know from the ship, but they would never do anything. And then the more I got into it, and you saw the Adelsons, you'd say, no, I mean, other than this horrible thing that they did, they were, you know, just the same kind of people that I would meet on the ship. And that just intrigued me. And I would talk to anybody who would listen about this story. And nobody knows about this. No one. So for all these years, I go into work. I also had a day thing. I worked for the agents who used to book me on the cruise ships since I stopped working. And I go in, did you hear what happened in the case? And they just like look at me, go, what are you talking? So no one wants to talk about it. So I was this guy walking around talking to the wall until I discovered this fantastic STS, unbelievable. Judy, unbelievable. The first one was ML. He was, I think, the first one that would break it down. And he was like the first person I went, someone thinks about this like I do. And then it led me into this world of all you people. And now we're finally seeing great justice being meted out for Dan.
Yeah, it's interesting because even like Mentor Lawyer was on STS with Judy and True Lifestyles and Kitty Kool-Aid, you know, who all have their own kind of entry point into this. And he was gracious enough to give credit to Over My Dead Body and Matt Schur and, you know, that podcast, which was an estimated like 10 million, you know, views. And so, yeah, it's interesting about how, and I imagine that maybe one of the things we bring up, and Joel and I talk about it, like media has changed. You know, it used to be you'd have your anchors, and now, and Joel was one, of course, but now it's democratized. Now, and, you know, Judy could set up Asian American Legal Focus, or, you know, Susan could do True Lifestyles and really kind of be the captain of their own ship and do things. And it is a little bit different. It's a little bit of a different ecosystem, you know, but, and I think you could find your tribe a little bit easier. And with the advent of YouTube, you know, you could see the comments, you could know who's with you, to get a more of an immediate impact. And we did even in TV, working at network news, you'd get emails, but it wasn't the same kind of collective community. So it's been rewarding, and it was nice meeting everybody in person at the trial, like Judy, special lady.
Yeah. So Steve, how did you even hear about Dan Markel?
I think I stumbled upon it on a podcast, you know, I think I stumbled upon Over My Dead Body. And then, which maybe 2020, you know, I was late to the game. I wasn't like an original like Bruce in 2014. And when I saw it, it had its own personal reasons for its stickiness, but I thought it was an interesting story. And you know, and I think, like anything, right? Like when you're emotionally involved, that's what brings people in. I don't think, even though I was in news and I covered some big true crime stories, be it Elizabeth Smart or any number of them, out in Utah a lot for that, and got to know that family, people seeking justice. People are attached because they have emotional reasons to want to see justice, and there's a degree of vicarious, kind of anticipation of it, because we want to believe that the world is just. We want to believe that the evil people who do these things will be punished, and I don't know, Bruce, like I was thinking the other day too about this, in Better Call Saul, right?
Right.
Where there was this nerdy guy named Price, and he was like, I'm not a bad guy, and he goes, I didn't say you're a bad guy, you're a criminal, so these people did these acts that, however, and we're going to get into these calls, however you want to kind of feel compassion for them, or they made a mistake, they're not the product of the worst thing they ever did in their life. They did awful, unspeakable things, and hopefully it's a deterrent for other people. Maybe that's another benefit about this, but yeah, I'm sorry if I'm motor mouth. But yeah, and Judy, maybe we should get into the calls.
Sure. Let's dive right in, because originally when I was watching all that stuff, thank you so much to Mentor Lawyer who got us these very interesting jail recordings. It was very frustrating because I'm like, what? I can only hear like every third or fifth word. There's tons of mumbling and static. And, some of the calls, I thought it was Donna crying in the background, but then I thought maybe it's like people making weird noises in the jail where Charlie was. So it was just frustrating. So I only transcribed a tiny chunk of a phone call between Charlie and his son's mom. And they did have a few calls right after he was convicted back on, November 6th. So, Steve, are you ready to do
I'm
this?
ready. I have the transcripts. Okay.
Okay.
It's the one with Bree. You're playing Bree.
Yes. Let me change the background here since I made a little.
May I say something
picture
before
here.
you start?
Yes, go ahead.
Because I had a guest here. A friend, Michelle Ballin, a comedian, was performing at my community last night. And I said to her, you're a woman. I need you to practice. Because I'm so obsessed now that they only give you 20 seconds to take a shower at the Leon County Jail. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
20 seconds.
Yes.
So I was there with my stop clock, and I said, Michelle, go into the shower, go through the machinations of what you need to do, and we got to time it out. And we weren't even anywhere at 20 seconds. When I said time, she hadn't even done a third of it. It is just amazing how crazy that is. A 20-second shower. That's it. I guess you don't really care, but I'm just telling you that's what kind of treatment that they're getting right now. No, he's not in there anymore. He's been transferred.
I didn't know that's for the men. I mean, and by the way, I remember, Bruce, I give you credit because you were even talking about extradited, places that she would have gone. I think you predicted that Donna might flee, right? You were talking about Paraguay and Guyana. So when on November 13th, when she did obviously get caught, what did you feel?
Well, Judy, you were the one that told me. You were the first one. It was expected. I was very excited, obviously, that she was caught. But when you look at it in reverse, and she was just giving it away, how they didn't think that these phone calls were tapped shows how desperate the situation had become. And then they didn't talk about what airline she was taken off of. So I'm good because of the cruise industry. I know how to look at airlines and who goes where. So I saw that it was that Emirates, and they were going first class. That each ticket was probably about $22,000 to escape, if not more.
I still, right? I mean, among the things that they did wrong was not I don't know if it would have mattered, but they could have bought a return ticket. They might have gone from a different airport, drive somewhere to do it. I think they ultimately would have been caught.
How about just a boat, a motorboat out of Miami? They live in South Beach to Cuba or any island nearby, and then from there you're free to go and go anywhere, go undercover.
Yeah. And
okay. Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but Bruce, do you mind if I take you off the screen so I can tinker around? Because right now no one can see the actual pictures because we're blocking the pictures. Oh, okay. So, but I'll bring you back on. This is short because I just, it took so long to try to transcribe something. Okay.
No need to say, no problem.
Take you off and I'll add you on soon. Thank you. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm a method actor, so in order to prepare, I paid some people off. And I got a Ferrari. I got a Ferrari, and I got
my sunglasses, and that's about it to get into character. Okay. So I think I start. Okay. Now, this is just jumping in because there were other phone calls, and this is not even from the beginning because it was so hard to understand. Okay, so here we go. It was a total of 3 hours, right?
They deliberated. They were gone for 3 hours, did not even take lunch. They gave the instructions, dude. Like the way she read them and explained them to the jury in her closing. It was like, if you think he's guilty, like, you feel that she made beyond reasonable doubt sound like if you think he's guilty, not like guilty, but you need proof, you've got to be 99.9% sure.
Right.
Reasonable doubt is very vague.
I felt like mumble, that I feel like these jurors just had their mind made up from the get-go, unfortunately.
I think they did. I think reasonable doubt. He's like, I'm pretty sure he did it. To know, who knows what happened.
Right.
It's not like the theory of basing it off of fucking angry emails from my mom. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Mumble. It's really hard to understand her. Your house, what's going to happen with the property? What's going to happen with that? Do you not want me to ask those questions?
Parents are downsizing beyond no.
Your mom texted me back, and she said that you broke down. Mumble. Came to, and she said a little things that I love you, and of course, I love them. And I'll be checking in with them every day. And I'll do anything for you, Mumble.
I'll figure something out what I want to do.
Just know that I am here. I'm not saying go move into the house. I meant like I am here. We're in North Carolina. If you, Mumble. Yeah.
I was planning on moving back to my house, having somebody that's there. Thank you very much. Space. I was planning on having some time by myself, my house, figure my life out from there, and
just move on. Now, okay, but now, we got to focus on. I think maybe you haven't had a moment to think about it. You don't need to think about it right now.
Definitely. I haven't thought far about what I plan to do. I know that I don't know anything. Actually, all I know is my house is probably going to get sold, and then I'll figure out what to do.
You just need a couple of days to kind of just digest what has just happened. You need to think about things.
Yeah, living in an apartment and having a 3-year-old dog and people around all the time, apartment for 8 hours a day, long walks, couple of long.
Okay. So a lot of that was just unintelligible. I would do anything.
I know you let me think right now. It's just more, my life is about my life, you know.
I know there's things that need to be figured out. And I want you to know that I'm here for you.
Let me figure it out tomorrow.
We're not all settled. We weren't all settled before, to be honest. Okay, this was really hard to decipher. Charlie, we haven't been all settled because we haven't had you. So any life change, we're all getting put together. Okay, in my eyes. So, but yes, right now, just think about everything that's happening. You need to digest and think about things. And, just know that I'm here for anything that you need. And if it came to, I think she said money, I'm not sure, mumble.
Yeah, no, I know. I just think
I know.
one day at a time. And then House, he came to town on the 14th, left on the 18th. And I put him up in my house. He came, his daughter, husband got married, got engaged. What do you call it? He stayed in my house, but he got all excited.
Okay, lots of mumbling. Mumble. You're an amazing person. You always have to, you've been the most genuine, the most supportive, a very, nice person. And I mumble. That was stressful, and I will miss you. You are honestly the most amazing man I've ever met in my mumble. And I cannot ask mumble. Charlie mumbling.
Mumble, yes.
We are always here for you. Roman has one amazing dad ever. Mumbling. He told me 2 days ago, the first thing he said when he woke up, I tell you, literally, I was asleep and he woke me up and said, I have something very important to tell you. I said, what? Because my baby, and I'm literally waking up and he's like, I miss daddy. Mumble. You will always be. Sorry. I know. Mumble. I think we've got a lot to mumble and think about. I love you very much.
Check on my parents for me.
Okay, more mumbling. Of course I will. Mumble. Roman has a teacher's mumble.
Call you tomorrow.
Mumble.
Hang in there. I love you. Have a good night.
Crying. Okay. So that's all because it was too stressful trying to decipher everything. So let's bring Bruce back on. I hope he's still there. Okay.
Oh, I had the popcorn already.
Well, that's all that I could kind of piece together because I still had work going on today. So, but did
there
you
are
guys
people.
both
I was telling Judy before, Steve. There's already these. There's a guy that has a sound. They've already deciphered this and they've got it compressed, and there's really good quality out already of this. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I've interacted with the guy who, enhanced the Dolce Vita tape, and I was going to reach out to him again, and just because we had a couple of digital forensics people on the other day who were really interesting, and I think aside from the emotion, there's a lot at stake here, right? Like, I think, with these calls and you get a window into this family, what they really felt. And I'm sure prosecutors could use it, for a variety of reasons, but it's 6 hours. They have, as True Lifestyles had done, like she talked to Donna and Charlie spoke for 35 hours. So I'm sure there's plenty more tapes that they can release, that, and I see it, like when you feel like you're so grief stricken facing this, what's going to happen to you, I think it is more authentic, right? I don't think, they were surprised, right? I think they thought that he was going to have a hung jury. He was going to get off. There was a number of really interesting things in these tapes. I mean, he mentioned juror number 15, and Bruce, Judy, and I were there, and that juror was demonstrably, in my opinion, off. Like,
pro-defense.
He was pro-defense, and he was inappropriate, and he was grimacing at different times or looking at the gallery, and he
was totally overly animated, because I recall just like he was like making weird faces, like ooh, like he was like hyper excited to be there. And people said he would just kind of grimace when Georgia Kappelman was talking. And then when Rashbaum was talking, he'd be like all excited and nodding his head.
Yeah.
So he definitely seemed weird.
And it makes you wonder, why Charlie cited that person in their call. He knew that person. I mean, obviously he was speaking to his lawyer and he was speaking to Dan Markel quite a bit, but I think nonetheless, there's a psychology, like how do you get through these times? And I think you have to convince yourself to believe your theory, this double extortion theory, that was the best they could come up with, and blame other people. There were a lot of things I saw over there listening to those tapes, and it gave you a greater understanding of this troubled family. Like Donna said that they're cursed. I don't think they're cursed. I think, they fought the law and the law won. It's
they got caught.
Yeah. They caused their own bad luck. And this is from their own terrible behavior. So it's about time they started paying for it. Yeah. So Bruce, how much of the phone calls did you listen to?
I was listening to them last night, and I'd say about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because it's kind of fascinating. And what I was listening to, first it was ML came out with them when he was holding a microphone, I think, to each side. But then by last night, there were really good quality. And today there's even better quality. I forgot the guy's site, but he's using on his screen, he's using I think I'm blanking on it, like a sound bar, and he's playing them back, and the quality is extremely clear on that. And I'm sure in the days coming, it'll be even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I just feel so lucky that we do have these awesome YouTube channels that are, I think they have to pay to get this audio so we can all hear it. Yeah. That night that Mentor Lawyer first came out with his stuff, I was like, man, I got to go to sleep for work the next day, but I couldn't go to sleep because it was like, man, I want to listen to this and stuff. But, finally I was like, I got to go to sleep, man. So, but it was very, very riveting to hear, like this family, Charlie and Donna just won't shut up. Is it even possible for a human to talk for 7 hours a day on the phone or 5 hours straight, whatever? It's crazy. I definitely couldn't do it, as you guys can tell. So.
Well, some of the time she would have been speaking to Wendy. Now she's speaking to Charlie.
Yeah.
She has all that free time because all Wendy apparently is doing is texting to her, and apparently not that much either.
Not even texting. Yeah, I found that, very interesting too, but that is the smart thing to do. Clearly, Wendy was the smart one compared to Charlie. You know, Charlie couldn't stop talking. He still can't stop talking. But, you know, Wendy's doing I guess, the right thing to do to protect herself, which is to distance herself from her own family and stop talking with them. I mean, as sad as it is, that's probably the best thing to do to protect herself. So did both of you?
But I don't know. I'm not sure, and I'm curious what you think, Bruce. Like, again, it's like somebody who's really innocent is not going to text and say, I had nothing to do with this. You know, and just those kind of like overly lawyered and kind of intentionally message sending kind of text, rather than just kind of like there's a part of you that seems plausible that you would react with your family when they're going to go to jail, or it's your brother after all, you know. And so I don't know, you know, it's and there's I just and
are you talking about now, or are you talking about over the top over time?
I'm talking about now. I'm talking about, you know, obviously I'm trying to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, like with everything we know about how this happened, you know. And, you know, I thought the 3 times she was on the stand, she was disingenuous, she was performative, she was insufferable, you know, she was inappropriate, and just it defied credulity how she was acting, you know. And that I think we've all seen, you know, and that's probably part of the reason, like any show does, while it has villains, she's one of the villains where, you know, people love to hate her. But I'm trying to think of, you know, is there a way to do it and to correspond with your family members and still be circumspect about it and still be a human being? Like, for better or for worse, this was your family, and I felt a degree of compassion for Donna when she said, we were just your nannies, now you don't need us, the boys are older, you know. And I just think that it's her true colors are showing even more. This family used people. They, you know, Wendy was using Jeffrey Lacoste, Charlie was using Katie Magbanua. Yeah. And that's how they were and are. And yes, I think they have what's coming to them. I think, you know, we had some really, Survivor, we had some really good divorce experts on, you know, people called the exes experts. And this woman, Olivia Summerhill, works with, you know, people in divorce, and 50% of marriages end in divorce. People's emotions get hot. People do not usually hire hitmen to kill somebody over there. They don't take the law in their own hands. They deal with the indignities of life and don't think like they're entitled or that their money could, you know, solve their problems.
I'll tell you an interesting story. So I'm friends with a girl whose father owned a handbag store in New York City, down in the Lower East Side. Very, very famous handbag store. And it was Blank and Blank was the name of it. And the partners, I think it started in 1955, and every Long Island woman, every Jewish woman and an Italian woman, everyone who wanted high-end pocketbooks went to this store. And the 2 men started it. Their families were around the same age. And the story goes, my friend, the daughter related to me, somewhere around, I'm going to say 1961, these 2 guys had a fight. And they never, ever spoke to each other again. And yet they worked side by side in the store, and they spoke at each other. They didn't speak to each other. So I went in there one time because I knew it was a landmark in the Lower East Side. So I went there to watch business, and the 2 men would be there, and one would say, give me an A61. And he'd go, A61. And there was no thank you. You know, what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing like that. And that was how they operated for, I guess, the next 30 plus years. But then the partner had a son, which is sort of almost related to this. I guess he had fallen into drugs, and he was going to murder my friend's father, the partner, one of those partners. but he evidently was overheard by the FBI on a wiretap, and they arrested him and put him in jail. So that was a story where, again, you can function and not like each other, but then when you cross, unfortunately with these people, they did commit it, but this guy was caught, and I think he killed himself in prison.
I remember I was watching a documentary once on the Bloods and Crips, and they were in LA County Jail, and in LA County Jail it says on top, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And it's a simple sentence, but there's no right way to do the wrong thing, no matter how much you could dress it up, no matter how you could try and convince yourself that you didn't do it, no matter how you could justify or demonize somebody so much that you think that it's better for your grandchildren to not have a father than to have one, and so I think I know I speak for all of us. I saw Katie Kool-Aid in the comments and Judy. We feel a degree of gratitude, and you, Bruce, everybody who's kind of been involved with this case. I think we feel a sense of justice is starting to happen, and people should think twice about, letting your emotions get the best of you or channeling it. And Wendy, whatever her role was, she enabled them, and that we could argue that, but it's like, I think people have had that kind of conversation. Like, is she the manipulator, or is Charlie was the, what are their roles? But as you might have guessed, I come from predominantly Jewish family, and we're all in each other's business. We're enmeshed in each other's business. And so I think, we just wouldn't go to that level. You just think we respect the law and we don't let our emotions get in the way. And it's different than a crime in the heat of passion too. Like, not to justify that either. These people planned it out, unless you believe that their 70th birthday gift, was paella, like that Charlie paid for, that they planned for a long time, it's crazy,
Yeah. Bruce, would you like to answer this?
I see Liz as the handbag store, and I bet there's people watching that know it was called Fine and Klein. It's very, very famous. And you Google New York Times, Fine and Klein, and it was Fine's son that wanted to kill Mr. Klein. And they seemed like nice men, but obviously they had some spat. But yes, it was a very famous case in Manhattan. But once he was apprehended, I think he killed himself, I think within months. So it was one of those amazing Yenta stories that then dissolved because there was no trial. There was no, yes, Debbie Morgan.
Mm-hmm. How long ago was that?
Oh, that was like, well, let's see. I'm going to guess. I think I was living in New York, or I had just come here. So let's say between 2002 and 2006. But if you Google it, just Google it, period, or Google it New York Times, and it'll have all the dates. But that was, but what was fascinating is because, when you're in show business, there's people that hate each other. Steve, you have to work with these people, and you have to interact, and egos in show business. And here were two men that definitely had the go-to handbag store. My mother would go in by train to go to the store to get a bag. It's a big deal. And so these guys were famous in that field, and yet they knew they didn't kill each other. I mean, they weren't trying to kill each other. It was the third party, but they knew enough to keep the business going, act like gentlemen, and make lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it, right? I think it's, this is, plenty of people get divorced without killing their in-laws. And, even like Charlie said it under cross-examination, well, how many divorces are that amicable? And they obviously were trying to downplay the vitriol and the acrimony of that divorce to make it seem like they didn't have that motive. Stuff that Charlie, when he was venting on those calls, thought wasn't relevant, like Wendy's book or, all of Donna's emails. And they would have gotten him, either way, but I think it added reinforcement and just more kind of circumstantial evidence. But I guess we're seeing this, and hopefully people out there are recognizing, as bad as you think things are, it's going to be a lot worse if you take the law in your own hands.
It's unimaginable. As much as you, these are villains in a live play in front of you, and you hate them because of what they did, and then once you air that out of after you air that out, and then you really think of, like, the 20-second shower every day for the rest of your life, or you see Charlie's haircut. I don't know whether I forget. I saw somebody try to explain it today, whether it's mandatory that you get a haircut so that you're not bringing lice into your new location, or maybe he thinks he actually looks better with the short hair, so maybe
he
does
instead of the
so whatever
haircut.
Yeah. So
I think most people did say that was required, because Sigfredo also had his head shaved, when he got transferred. So I mean, it makes sense because of the potential lice problem. But
some of it, I was talking to maybe with Joel or somebody, like when Donna was complaining about the conditions in jail, I was kind of like, well, you're worrying about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, it's okay. Like, you're in jail. Like, you want to give her Brooklyn and sheets and all that other stuff. Like, it's still a miserable existence. So what the hell? Make it a little bit more bearable for them, and I don't think anybody would begrudge them that. I mean, she's not going to be free for the rest of her life, and I don't know how great you could make it, I think it's a hard thing to see hope when you're never, ever going to get out. And I think that sunk into Charlie when he was mentioning how it's one in a million, then he said 1 in 10 million to be out, and I don't know, it's and by the way, what do you guys think when he said I should have listened to my gut? What did you think that was about him?
I took that to mean that he should have left the country, because remember, he went on so many international trips from 2016 through 2020. And I mean, of course, Rashbaum pointed out, but he always came back. But, I'm sure he really was checking out things to see if he should just run and hide somewhere.
Yeah.
What about you, Bruce? Did you?
I can't think about things like that because I don't think about killing people.
Because you're not a criminal.
I like to kill my audience, but that's about the only killing that I actually try to think about. It's going back to what you said a few seconds ago. Yes, he did have ample time. He was going to the Philippines. He would go all the action. The guys were single guys go. So yeah, that's a hop, skip, and a jump to Vietnam or to countries that don't have extradition. But he thought he wasn't going to get caught, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Steve, you mentioned that poignant statement from Donna where she's sobbing and she's like, I have one son who won't talk to me. My other son is almost dead. And my daughter, won't return my calls or something. Or my daughter who I love with all my heart, blah, blah. Now we're not needed anymore. The kids are grown up or kids are teenagers. She doesn't need a nanny. So, I mean, you start to feel a little sad for her, but then you're like, but this is all your own making. You did it yourself, you crazy lady. Yeah. I mean, the nerve of her to be sobbing for herself and feeling sorry for herself, and nobody's mentioning Dan. Of course, the commenters like Hystera Moon, everybody's saying, where's the extortion? Where's the anger that Katie extorted Charlie? These bad guys used him. Yeah. It just shows how guilty he is, and Donna too.
Judy, can I ask Steve? Because I know we go through this all the time. And I believe it was the neighbor. I forget Mr. begins with a G. Geiger.
Geiger.
And that the key to all of this was seeing that flash of a silver green Prius. But I think I've discussed this with you, Judy, and you think that they would have figured this out other ways. Was that you that we talked about that?
Maybe. I mean, it's definitely a lot better.
That was such an important clue.
It was amazing. Yeah. And Georgia's obviously given them a lot of credit, saying if it wasn't for the action of a good neighbor, like
she has said, okay, all right.
That in a lot of the, closings or openings, if it weren't for him, they might still, and they, and then people are like, well, they did it in broad daylight or they did other things. I think obviously, once you had kind of the cars, you could narrow it down. I mean, they might have, I think from the very beginning, they would have suspected, the Adelsons and, or like they've not suspected them, but have been trying to look out for them as to see, and then they would have uncovered all the bitterness. And then maybe they would have tried to kind of monitor them and still have a version of the bump that was so effective, with that agent, Oscar Jimenez, who did a terrific job, on that. So I definitely think it expedited stuff. I don't know. I'm not like a Kelly Blue Book kind of car type person. I don't know. I don't know. I would have been able to see the make of it. Like, I don't know if it would have been that conspicuous to me. And we're fortunate that they were that Mr. Geiger was that attentive, to them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's why you always hope that your neighbors will be watching out for you, because maybe Mr. Geiger might not have been home, or maybe he wouldn't have run to the window, or gone to the driveway to see if Dan was okay. Yeah. So, okay. So do you guys want to answer questions, or are there some hot topics from this week that you'd like to get off your chest?
How about we do questions?
Okay. Sure. Okay. So Max is asking, what's the thing with the dog from the jail call have? Well, I think all that talk about Charlie's dog, it just really showed what his priorities are. Like, he was going on and on and on about his dog, and I guess his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend, whatever you want to call her, Janice, was helping to watch his dog. And you're like, how come he's not talking with so much concern about his son? I didn't hear him going on and on telling Bree about, how his family's going to take care of Roman and pay for this, and tell Roman I love him, do this and that. I mean, he did say that. What did he say? Like, I always wanted to be a dad. He made some really annoying, aggravating comment about how he always wanted to be a dad, but other than that, he was going on and on and on about the dog. So did you hear that?
I'll give Katie Kool-Aid some credit, because I was listening to her deconstruction of these tapes, and one of the things that she noticed, with the dog, was apparently Charlie's son's mother is living in an apartment that's not necessarily big enough for the dog to go to, but yet it's a 1-bedroom apartment, but it's okay for her to live with her son. Like, this is her son. This is the Adelson's other grandchild, or one of their other grandchildren. So it's just kind of just the perverseness of them not saying, well, you know what? We need to get you a bigger living space, not so we could have a dog there, but that your son, because they were complaining about how the backyard they didn't have a backyard for the dog to run and roam free. Well, maybe it'd be nice for his son to have some room over there. So, that's another thing I thought there, and I think that there's probably 100 things that we see in those calls that you're just never going to have. You're not going to have lobster. You're not going anywhere. You're not going on go-karts. You're not doing anything. You're not having a 21-second shower. It's
I see somebody mentioned in the comments that I don't know. I'll look into it, but they say that the reason it's 20 seconds is you have to push that thing like in the high school lavatory. So that only lasts 20 seconds. But I could be stand corrected. I will look into it and I will research it and get back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Or probably one of the Florida lawyers knows about that. So I could ask Jeremy Mutz about that.
Yeah.
Shout in the jail. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay. So Janice, the house sitter, and Bree, the baby mama, talked to Charlie about marriage on those jail calls. Well, I didn't really listen to Janice's call, but definitely Bree said to Charlie, should we get married? I mean, I'm like, are you crazy? He's in prison for life. And she's like still talking to him like he's the greatest guy in the world. He's so amazing. And should we get married? And of course he doesn't say anything, right? Like he doesn't. I mean, it's really weird, that relationship. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Sorry. My computer, something just flashed up on the computer screen. Okay. Katie says Wendy started protecting herself. Yeah, totally. I mean, Wendy has totally gone into self-preservation mode by not even contacting Charlie, not even asking about him. Yeah. I mean, it seems cold, but I think if
it's obviously
I were a suspect, I would do the same.
Well, it's like it makes you think of like a lot of the mafia or gang hits or something where there is a conspiracy. You think that there's a code and omerta, but once it hits the fan, then everybody's a little bit out for themselves, and that you've seen. People look out for themselves. And I imagine that begs another question, of do you think they'll flip? I feel like Carl Steinbeck is an astute observer, and he was saying maybe if Donna passes, then Charlie might flip on Wendy. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of questions that remain to be answered, which is why so many of us are so riveted to this. But maybe it's sharp of Wendy to do that, or smart and self-preserving, but she's culpable. She never should have allowed this to go on, and could have assuaged her mom any number of ways. And we all have concerned mothers and people like that, and she could have taken down the temperature and said, Mom, I'm fine. I like Tallahassee. I know I said it was Hiawassee Springs in the book, but it was just a book, and I know it said it was far from civilization, but I love it here. If this were heaven, I'd kill myself tomorrow. The boys like it. They're whatever. So she definitely look the same way, believe it or not, like Charlie was assuaging his mother, saying, I'll be okay, I'll be fine. I just kind of want to get out of this box and move around a little bit. And maybe when I'll go to prison, on Surviving the Survivor, there were a couple of psychologists, and Joni Johnston, who I think is very shrewd. She counsels inmates. And she talked about how sometimes when you get into that routine, or after the shock wears off, it's more manageable. But to his credit, as much as he was bemoaning his fate, he was trying to, comfort his mom and dad, so I thought that was telling. And
yeah. Well, I didn't really see so much Charlie comforting Donna, but really the two of them were just going on and on, coming up with excuses as to why he was found guilty. Like this whole sob pity party, like, oh, like Kappelman was just using her Southern charm or whatever, and there was that 65-year-old black lady who was falling asleep and not paying attention to the evidence, and they were focusing on Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I only texted twice back in 2014, focusing on Lacoste and Wendy's book, and they didn't look at the evidence.
Georgia said used the word y'all.
Right.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why they should have gotten a local Tallahassee attorney or somebody closer to Tallahassee to do the case then, instead of those people from New York City, the jury consultants and Miami attorneys.
But they also, they on those calls, I've heard them praise the job Dan Roshbaum did. And he certainly put in the hours and, you know, in it, you know, and they really, really prepared Charlie. I mean, he memorized those calls, you know, so, you know what I mean? He knew him inside and outside. He might have been a little too prepared, but ultimately, I don't think it would have mattered, you know, but, you know, it's like we're trying to put ourselves in their shoes, and we're not entirely like them, you know, because we wouldn't have done this to another human being. And I think there's a degree of unpleasant things where you distance yourself from it because you hired people to do it, or because it's 7 hours away, or you didn't actually see it, and maybe you could somehow rationalize it. And fortunately, truth came out. You know?
Yeah. Okay. This quick question about maybe the two women should be jealous of each other, listening to the phone calls with Charlie saying, "I love you, baby." Yeah. I mean, till the very end, he's still acting like a player, and these weird women are still, you know, hooked on him. I mean, with the child's mother, you can sort of understand because she needs the money from the Adelsons. And she has a child with him, but what's this other person, Janet, still hanging on to him for? It's ridiculous. So
I mean, a friend in need is a friend indeed. You know, so I mean, I feel like
we've spoken before about this little world that we're in. I don't know what, maybe there's 10,000 people across the world that are into this case. The rest of the world knows nothing. And Surviving the Survivor broadcasts out of South Florida is where I believe Wendy lives, like in that Bal Harbor, North Miami Beach, Sunny Isles area. And I used to live down there. And she's obviously, from what I'm getting from these podcasts, I don't know if all her friends are even aware, or people that she goes out and meets. They don't, when they say, "Hi, I'm Wendy Adelson," I don't think they put the two things together. It's just this crazy group of people like us. I compare it to the movie Close Encounters, where they all wind up at that in Montana at that mountain, and nobody knows why they're there. So
I don't think so. I feel like people know, and they're willfully kind of just rationalizing it. And I get
now, or even 6 months ago.
I think 6 months ago they knew it. I think I do. I think it's you know, I definitely think that you know, they knew, and I think they don't want to know. You know, like I think it's out there. You know, I think people in Miami know, and it's more than 10,000, like 10 million people listen to,
Correct.
You know, For My Dead Body. And I think, and I give people like Fancy Fiction credit for putting the focus on, putting the focus on some of these people. You know, it's when you're cruel to the kind, you're kind to the cruel. So by enabling, by these friends that haven't abandoned them, like I think you take friends and people, you take them like, you know, you take them warts and all, but if it becomes like tumors, and you kind of got to get rid of these people, and you know they've lost your right for your loyalty. I'm sure you've had people who've done egregious things. I know people like that, and they've kind of forfeited their right for my loyalty. And you know, we have to make an ethical kind of statement and say, no, this is wrong. You should be shunned. You're innocent until proven guilty, but it's just, and you get the presumption of innocence. But I think in this particular case, it was overwhelming. It just, you know, and that, again, the best word is cockamamie. The cockamamie defense is, you know, it's like, it's not even, it's just doesn't doesn't engage you to think like that they have the possibility of them not being involved in this, and they didn't do a good job explaining it, and they didn't act as if like there's probably 100 reasons why that one would think like they were involved, but it's among them people don't talk in code, or if you're not guilty, and there's a million things.
Steve,
but I think I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Steve, what you mentioned about people just not wanting to find out info and still possibly supporting the Adelsons, it brings to mind, remember maybe last year, I think Joel said he was trying to help Ruth Markel do some sort of book reading or book signing.
Yeah.
And then he received some resistance from people in the local community because they were either afraid of or friends with the Adelsons or something like that. So do you know if there was some resistance to this latest event?
Yeah. Oh, to the one we're doing.
Yeah. Because you guys are doing something.
No, I feel, that company Illuminated, Jeff. No, I haven't faced a lot, and we should have a nice turnout of people. If you're there on Wednesday in Sunrise, Florida, please come. And not only could you meet Ruth and Joel and Carmela and Dave Arenberg and Dateline's Dennis Murphy, but you could meet the great Bruce Smirnoff, who'll be there. So
that's keep people away.
We telling jokes, but no, I just think people know. I do. I'm sorry. Like it's like Bruce, like gossip about people that in your neighborhood or anything like that, and this has been out there so much. Like Charlie told Katie, this has been on the BBC. His own and Good Morning America. So I feel like they know it, and and if you meet somebody and you met Wendy Adelson and then you're like, wow, she seems interesting. Wow, she went to Brandeis and she went to University of Miami. She seems really smart. Let me Google her. And then you see 1,000 things, including 2 court cases where she's wearing the same exact outfit. So I think people know. And if they don't, shame on them.
Okay. Bruce, any comments about Donna's appearance on Monday at her arraignment?
Yeah, I mean, can you still see me? Someone's calling me and it's knocked me off. Let me get rid of it. Okay, good. All right, doesn't matter.
Okay.
She was doing like what not to do 101 in court, which is making faces and overacting, what? That's not me. I wouldn't do that. And I don't think that's going to play very well with her. If she's trying to be theatrical about that, the courts don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Were you guys disgusted? I was disgusted by Donna's entire demeanor and mannerisms. I was shocked though, because you would think that she'd come in looking a little bit more humble, but boy, she just looked really tough and nasty the whole time. That was surprising.
Yep, she probably had just watched your video of her, of her singing Barbara Streisand tunes, and that probably agitated her. You figure skating with the green and yellow dress that she wore on the bump.
It's a shirt. It was just a shirt with the black little shorts. Yeah.
And I want to give you credit. So for all the effort, you're definitely Avis. You try harder. And I think it's very commendable that you put all this time in. And so appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for the little bio.
Is that correct?
It's correct. I worked at CBS Early Show, which was and Good Day New York, and so thank you.
What was your biggest career accomplishment then?
And we did interviews with 4 or 5 presidents. I mean, I covered a lot of big stories. I mean, morning television was very competitive. Um, did 9/11, did Martha Stewart trial, did Tiger Woods story, a lot of different prominent. We did the Bernard Madoff story, um, and so any number of big stories, and Lance Armstrong's story. I remember we did a lot with.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of big kind of stories, and they were very competitive. And I think I could speak for Joel too, when we were in court, rather than in a studio or away from people. And I think also it felt a little bit like old times, in the words of Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. It seemed like old times, like we were in the court and we were dealing with the other news people there, whether you're from Court TV or Law and Crime or Judy or Kathy or, John Steinbeck was there, and Fancy and True Lifestyles. And I felt like I did, like, when we were covering a big story. And so, yeah, I think, obviously 9/11 was very intense after that, and a lot of the terrorism stuff, but, really any big story you could think of, and being in morning television was a very competitive, period. You'd really fight tooth or nail with the other morning shows to get guests, and it was a good training ground for what we're doing now. And Angela asked a good question. How do you get such great guests? Powers of persuasion. Yeah, people say no. I think that I've always been very confident. Even when I was in TV, I would always joke and say, like, hey, like, if I'm going after Moby Dick, I bring tartar sauce. Like, I expect to get these people, and I think that there's a lot of ways to do it. I feel like, Zig Ziglar used to say, you can get whatever you want by helping enough other people get what they want. I think you're effectively inviting them to a party. And how do you get people to go to a party or an event? You invite them early, you invite them often, you be a good host. You tell them who else is at the party, you give them party favors, and you have to figure out what their motivation is to do it, right? People talked about what's the biggest radio station in the world, which is WIIF, what's in it for me? And I'm mindful of that. And I want to be useful to people. I don't want to use them. I want to make sure, like we felt that way, like Ruth and the Markels were so generous with their time and their story and their pain, that we wanted to be helpful to them as well. Not in a BS way where you're trying to rationalize, exploiting their tragedy for other purposes, and I think I think Mentor made an interesting distinction when we were saying, doing justice for Dan. He was saying, like, to pursue justice for everyone. And I think that's very true. I think, we should be vigilant and look for stories where we could also affect change. I thought it was very kind of Phil Markel to give thanks to people for keeping this story in the news. I knew this as a news person, right? Whether it was the Chandra Levy story, whether it was an Ali Holloway story, whether it was John Benet Ramsey, like, people kept it alive. And there was a lot of homicides, and there's been a lot done on, why do some stories make it when others don't? And unfortunately, sometimes there's a disproportionate lack of attention paid to people of color or different, and people who don't look like you. And so I think, as I've often said, like, the biggest room in the world is a room for improvement, and you should try and get better and say, okay, how do we get better? How do we do it? But I thought it was a very nice question by Angela. Thank you. And I think that you just keep pushing and you work hard, and persistence beats resistance. I think Bruce, you'll think this is funny. Like, I remember I was in radio at the time, and we did the Heidi Fleiss story, and I called Sydney Biddle Barrows of,
Mayflower Madam.
The Mayflower Madam, and she said, listen, Steve, I'm sorry. She was like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. And I said, well, why don't you turn over a new leaf tomorrow and do the show today? No, I think I pretty much, I think there's a degree of bravado. I remember one time they were like, Steve, do you think you could sell it? And I said, well, if I tell them it's Passover, they'll start looking for matzahs. Yeah, I think I could do it. Like, I think I could sell a pogo stick to a kangaroo. Like, I think you could do certain things, but you have to, in your mind, feel like they're benefiting from it. And, and I would be hypocritical if I didn't spend an hour of my time on the great Asian American legal focus, with you and Bruce. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Thank you for being here too. I know you like to be more behind the scenes, but it's great to see you show your face and tell us your views.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, let's get to a couple of more questions. I know you guys both have important places to be, right, Bruce?
No.
Like you say, I got something to do in 2092.
That's too soon.
Okay, well, Tia always has great comments, so thank you, Tia. I've noticed one of Donna's Wendy support phrases. We are protecting you. Everyone is protecting you. We need to protect Wendy. What's all the protection about? We won't betray you. Yeah, that's a very astute observation. I think that brings to mind that whole bump phone call where Charlie asked, is this about Wendy? And Donna goes, no. That doesn't mean that Wendy wasn't involved. She just was trying to tell Charlie to just shut up and stop talking because she wanted him to meet with her in person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it is pretty suspicious also that Donna is always trying to protect Wendy.
And I mean, one of the things I'll say is, I think the more, and I probably used to watch a lot more sports than I do now. Now I'll go back sometimes and watch the trial or watch a cross-examination, and I'm always interested in like process, and I'm impressed with how Georgia went about doing it. And I think every once in a while you'll watch it and you'll see a reason why she asked a particular question, and it might be a question that seems mundane or okay when, Wendy moved back to Tallahassee. Where was she living? Well, she was living with my parents, but it was a small apartment or something. And there are other reasons why they might be asking that. They might be saying, was this premeditated? Did you already have a place? Or when they register kids for school? I mean, there's a lot of other reasons why, or to say, didn't your parents drive all the way up there and then drive back? Weren't you a grown middle-aged woman and your parents were infantilizing you? And that's to a lot of this. And I think she exacerbated it by being a little bit of the damsel in distress, right?
I even looked into because so much was the problem of that distance from South Beach up to Tallahassee. So there's an airport that's about 8 miles west of South Beach called Tamiami. This is how nuts I get obsessed with this case. So I said, okay, you're the Adelsons. You have all this money. Before you go and kill somebody, they were willing to pay him off. If they could have, I looked up how much it costs to charter a jet, not a propeller. Okay, a propeller plane from Tamiami to Tallahassee. I think it's like 2 hours and maybe 15 minutes. But they could have used that money without going the bad way and just said, Dan, you can fly back and forth. Wendy, you can fly back and forth. And it's like a 52-minute flight.
Yeah.
If you get the small jet, maybe it's 10 minutes longer, and it's maybe only $2,000. And if you amortize that out, it was totally affordable. But they obviously went the bad way. But it was doable to make that distance much, much more acceptable.
And you know what? I mean, there's, again, getting back to LA County Jail, there's no right way to do the wrong thing, no matter how they tried to justify it. But I think he might not have been at Tallahassee forever. You know what I mean? Like, as she said, that's very possible. He was an ambitious guy. Nobody knows what might happen. He was seeing somebody in New York, and I think the Adelsons use those arguments when it suits them and doesn't use it, when it doesn't suit their desire for it. But I think Warren Buffett, I remember, said, you could always tell somebody to go to hell tomorrow. And I feel like it's like maybe you could always kill somebody. It's more like you could just think about, and cooler heads prevail, and figure out different solutions.
And generally, that's what happens in life. We don't fall into a society where everyone's killing each other. That's what, again, makes this so fascinating. That they just push that button, and then we are where we are today.
Well, that's always one of those dictates of news, right? Where it's like, dog bites man. It's not a story of man bites dog. It's a story, and for a lot of these reasons, you're like, why would somebody who's so privileged and had everything going for them, and every material comfort, why would they do this? And just the same way people adapt. Maybe a year or two later, she would have met somebody else, or he would have met somebody else, and obviously these parents were fueling the fire. They weren't saying the right things to them. They were enabling her. And, I think what affects the Adelsons now is they have nobody but themselves to blame,
Exactly. But they're blaming Georgia Cappleman,
Yeah.
So hopefully she does have some security measures in place. Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Donna? What would Donna think if she knew the public now has a chance to learn of her conversations with Charlie? Bruce, do you want to guess?
Does it matter?
Yeah. Who cares what Donna thinks now?
Things than that. Yeah. She's her goose is cooked, and that's what she's saying.
And I appreciate the question, Casey Elkin, who's such a astute observer. I think they'd be mortified. I think they were very concerned about what everybody else think about keeping up with the Joneses, about having status. She was the one who picked Dan, and obviously liked the fact that he had an Ivy League pedigree. And they were concerned about all these other men, and they had means, and they were a certain place, and which obviously reinforces when you look at Jeff Lacasse, who seems like an incredible person and a decent guy. He wouldn't have been good enough for with a self-described crappy car, or
living in the basement.
Yeah, I think maybe if they'd be more concerned about the character of the person rather than external factors, whether it was Rob's spouse, and or other people. So they made their bed; they're gonna have to live in it.
Yeah. Easy question, Steve. Are you gonna go to Donna's trial?
I'll see you there, Kathy. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm in there like swimwear. I think it's definitely been compelling, So, and that was another thing, I had the privilege of meeting everyone at the trial, and of course Tim Jansen and Monica, a ton of people in this community, Bruce, that you're a part of now, But I think that I remember driving up with Joel, and probably a lot of similarities to the Adelsons, or coming from privileged background. And I remember looking at Tallahassee, which I'd never been to. I was trying in my mind to think about how somebody could hate that area. I'm not running for mayor of Tallahassee. I have no vested interest in this, but I was like, this is a cool college town, state capital. I mean, I couldn't picture having that much contempt for it, or, I think successful people always focus on the flowers, not the weeds. And I just have always tried to do that wherever I've been, like you mentioned, in work, or sure, but you have to work with people you don't like. Like, I've worked with people where you're like, I can't say they're the worst person in the world. That's only because I haven't met everybody else in the world. I've worked with people that you don't love, and you kind of got to deal with it, and you got to compartmentalize. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do it, so.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Bruce? Do you think you would go, assuming Donna has a trial?
I wanted to go to the last one. I guess nothing holds me back except getting a cat sitter. So, and now I kind of feel as if we all know each other. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest fear was
I forgot my wallet last time.
Yeah.
My biggest fear was driving there.
Killing me, but what's that?
I said my biggest fear was driving there, and then there's no seat for me. But I made sure that I listened to everything, and they said that even on the verdict day, there was still seats available.
Yeah,
Again, people just don't care about it. They're not aware of this, nor do they pay any attention to it. It's just this group of people that seem to be hypnotically drawn to it.
Yeah. Although it was heartening to hear that there were people from Florida State who showed up the day of the sentencing, Charlie's sentencing, that there were friends of Dan who were out there watching. Yeah. And John Steinbeck flew back to Tallahassee. Like, he doesn't live anywhere near Florida, but he flew out there, took time off work so that he could be there in person too. So that was really cool.
Yeah, we met a lot of really cool people. I could answer Katie's question. I dealt with a lot of different guests where they're difficult. I mean, I think I've always felt like it served me well, you know, if a guest is unexpectedly difficult. I try to, you know, I try, like, you don't get mad, you don't get even, you get ahead, right? And you just try and be calm, cool, and collected. And I remember one time, I'll just tell you one quick story. I was doing something with an actress, and she was very difficult. And I remember, you know, just saying, listen, you know, she was a famous actress. And I remember I was doing a celebrity segment. I said, listen, you know, I'm just trying to do my job. Like, it's Vidal Sassoon. If you don't look good, we don't look good. Like, it's like, and so I don't need your attitude. And so then when she came to the show, you know, I think she appreciated that I was kind of stern with her. And I said, listen, I'm going to go in after this segment. I'm going to go into the control room and watch you talking to Brian Gumbel or whoever. And I said, afterwards, I'm either going to take a bow or take my medicine. And I said, I am not going to be taking my medicine. And she was really like shook up, and she was like, did you take your medicine? Take a bow. And I was like, no, you did a good job. I mean, I don't know why you needed all the drama. Like, it was so uncalled for, you know, like, do your job. Like, you're a guest on the show and be normal, you know? So I think people appreciate if you kind of could show some edge and you're not abusive to them and you calm them down. And so thank you for the question.
Okay, great. Okay, Bruce, would you like to comment on Donna's attorney, Maricel Descalzo? It was uncomfortable watching how she questioned the jail official.
Again, I don't know much about law or anything, but I did watch the first arraignment. What was it when she was caught at the airport and then she was arraigned in Miami court?
Which one? The one with Judge Glaser, Mindy.
She's a very colorful judge down here. There's highlight videos of her. She's got a real cute personality, and yet she's a very bright judge. There's a few down here that have really good personalities like that. At that, she was being polite, wasn't smiling, but she was being somewhat cheerful. But now she's coming in like John Gotti and the 4 members of the crew the other day. And I guess when you're getting paid umpteen tons of money, you do what the boss tells you to do. But there's really not much that she can do, but she was trying. And it doesn't help when your client is making crazy faces and saying, oh my God, and stuff like that, not helping the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you sort of do feel sorry for Maricel having to deal with Donna, but she's getting paid to do that. And I thought it was really disrespectful, the tone of voice and the fact that she kept saying, Chief Mac, blah, 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 Chief Mac, blah, blah, you know, Chief Mac. You know, and I'm like, come on. You know,
Donna or Maricel you're talking about?
Maricel. Yeah, Descalzo. Yeah. So it just seems very bizarre how hostile and just nasty, you know, as if she had to put on this extra nasty show to please her client. And on that note, I also was sort of surprised when Descalzo wanted to have that case management hearing so quickly. January 9th, 2:30 is going to be the next hearing. But then it's not surprising when we heard that supposedly Descalzo and Rashbaum left in the same car. And Rashbaum has been talking with Donna because she was his client first. So I'm beginning to think that the two attorneys are definitely working together. So perhaps they feel like they don't need to wait that long to have a trial because Descalzo has already been working behind the scenes for the last year plus, a couple of years maybe, preparing. So that's my guess, is that they've been working together for quite a while.
And I think the Adelsons, if they stick with Dan, I mean, as we know, Georgia and Sarah Dugan and the state's attorney's office, they're ready to go. Like Donna was really like the hidden person on trial, the not so hidden person, even in the closing, the opening arguments in the case, like you just kept hearing how Donna incited them all to do this act, and that's what gave them motive. So I feel like they could use a lot of the same stuff, and it's like the same blueprint or lesson plan like a teacher would use. And then I think if you're the Adelsons, you're kind of like, all right, I don't know, like maybe you just want to get it over with already, right? Like she has a right to a speedy trial, so, and I feel like a lot of us want to see Donna convicted and then Wendy and perhaps Harvey next. And I imagine a lot of these calls or the intel they're getting will implicate them,
Okay. Just trying to see if there's any quick questions here. Yeah, because it's almost an hour and a half, and I do have to get
Really?
going.
This was an hour and a half?
Yeah, yeah.
It goes by so quickly. Wow.
Yeah, Bruce, do you have any pressing things you would like to say to the people?
I just want to say to the people who watch your podcast, you do a phenomenal job. And to the people who watch Steve, you do a phenomenal job. I feel so clumsy and I'm so grateful that you have me on your show, but I know nothing about the law. I just have passion for this case. But I promise you, if you ever want to do anything about show business, I become another person, because that's at least something in life I know a lot about. I was a fly on the wall for some of the most amazing things that you as viewers don't know about. And that's when I come alive. And I feel like I'm an annoyance on this show, but I'm very grateful that you have me. But I have no comments to say. I just say thank you for including me in all this stuff. But I'm like, what is it? All thumbs when I'm on the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this about show business. So remember I told you I happened to see your, what was it, 1990 or 1991 VH1 special with Rosie O'Donnell. And yeah, because I was like, maybe I did watch you back then, because that was when I was in high school and I was constantly watching comedy VH1. I had no life, so I was always watching those. That
was a great show. That was filmed at the Ice House in Pasadena, California. And she was really hot at the time, and the production value on that show was really good. So the audience was warmed up. And at that point in my career, I had it together. So that was a great shot for me. And that got me to be what's called a headliner. There were comedy clubs all around the United States. And that show, I did a couple of appearances with that. And we became friendly because we used to work at comedy clubs together. So my thing with her is whenever we see each other, she and I, this is another nutty thing I do. We found ourselves independent of one another at a UFO convention, and about the what's that group of people? Semyasi. If you're listening, they're the guy from Billy Meyer from Sweden, who he has these flying.
We've done a lot with, by the way. Yes, we've had Avi Loeb, the Harvard physicist who believes in UFOs. I personally don't, but yeah, And I have a question for Bruce as well. Judy and I were speaking to Leon County Jail, and they said they want you to perform, next week. So we'd like you to go up to and perform at Leon County Jail. Have you ever played a prison?
No, but they did. Paul Rodriguez used to book, what was it, Lompoc State Penitentiary, and or I think it was Lompoc, and guys would go and do it. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't think they deserved a show. You're in prison. You're not getting a comedy show. But that's just the way I feel. But a lot of comics went there, and they were obviously an appreciative audience. And but no, I won't work in a prison. No.
Interesting, because I thought Jeff Ross. Yeah. I've seen.
When I'm on a cruise ship, I think I'm on a prison sometimes because you can't get off. But yes,
I feel like there's different degrees though of people in prison. You know what I mean? And I've been moved, I've seen some prisoners with life sentences that turn their life around. I mean, you have to believe that people could change or reform.
No, I understand.
You're not like you're not equivalent to your biggest mistake in life. The problem I think we see with the Adelsons, like they don't seem to have any contrition or regret, just denial and finger pointing. But anyway.
But technically, hold on one sec. Technically, one of the reasons is prisons are all one sex, and stand-up comedy is it's a masculine, feminine energy zone. So I'm not a guy's guy. I enjoy sports, but I'm not a jock. I never was around it, so I don't have that male bonding gene in me. So when you do a prison, you gotta have that. You gotta have a swagger. I don't have that kind of. I have a swagger when it's equal energy. So that's the reason. Yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy about felons, but that wasn't the real reason because I didn't want to bomb. It was just that simple. If I knew I was going to go to prison and entertain and I'd get a standing ovation, then I would go. I'd go where all the killers were. I don't care. But that's the reason. It has nothing to do with judgment of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I still want to bomb. Okay. It's not a good feeling, and I bombed enough. I don't need that over and over again.
Yeah, nobody wants to bomb. Okay, well, getting back to the case, seems like Donna was always a control freak. And I do have to say, I do have a smidgen of insider info from people who have known Donna when she was young. And they confirmed that Donna was a control freak. She was very controlling and bossy, and she could seem nice. She could smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. And somebody also said that about Harvey. Same thing, that in general, he seemed like a nice guy, but he would have no qualms about stabbing you in the back too. People said things like Donna would smile while lying straight to your face. So I think she was probably a better actor than her kids were. So okay, so that confirms that you suspect Donna was always a control freak. Seems like her kids were afraid to say no to Donna. Even Harvey seems like the type of person who would disown or turn. Yeah, that's what happened with the older son, right? That she threatened to disown him.
If you follow their story on I think it was what was for ABC, one of the shows. They had they were living near like Margate, that area, and they had a nice house, nothing fancy. So they worked very hard at what they did. Again, they're up until you commit murder, everybody's got flaws. So post murder, they're evil people. But up until that, a lot of people are that way. A lot of people are control freaks. A lot of people smile and speak about you behind your back. Welcome to the world of show business, where we learn that that's the greatest quality we have. But nobody goes around killing each other. I mean, that's the line right there. Okay.
I did see another question. So sorry, I'm kind of jumping around because there are so many questions here. I think somebody had a question for Bruce. Now I can't even find it again. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay. Who wants to answer this? Is it possible to have a kosher Mexican wedding?
Yeah. Yeah, you can have anything. Just you can't mix the milk, dairy, and meat. That's all.
Okay.
Some pretty lousy tacos, unless you use like artificial cheese or something.
Oh, okay. Oh, here's the question. Okay, thanks, Debbie, for being here. Did Bruce do any of the comedy clubs in New York City? I went all the time, 70s to early 80s.
No, in the 70s and 80s, I was in Los Angeles. So I worked at the Comedy Store and the Improv and the Ice House in Pasadena. In the 2000s, I moved to New York, and I worked a lot of the clubs then, but a lot had gone out of business by 2000 and 2001. Mm-hmm. But yes, thank you for going to comedy clubs. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love comedy clubs too. So I used to go to
where is the closest comedy club to where you live, Judy?
Oh, well, shoot, what is it called? Like Raleigh Improv?
Oh, Charlie Goodnights. And there's
I went to Charlie Goodnights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've worked.
But in DC, I think it was the Punchline.
Punchline, there was Garvin's, there were a lot of clubs. There was one club that was a strip bar on the first floor, and then was a comedy club on the second floor. So we'd have to walk through, a completely nude bar just to get to the gig. It was a very strange venue there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Okay, something wrong with that family. They're immoral and psychologically unwell. Yeah, that's why, Steve, you'll be happy to hear I did watch that whole psychologist discussion about the Adelsons where Carm was featured. So it was really good to hear those psychologists' insights about
I thought Dr. G's great, Carm. I should give Ileana, Joel's wife, aka the COE. It takes a lot of work to go. But I thought, Joni Johnston is a prison psychologist. And, I thought, I think it's, again, people make mistakes, and you hope that there's some redemption for people, and that, and I've seen that. I've seen it. We've had people who are guests on our show, and they turn their lives around, and, so let's hope. I mean, I wouldn't want to be that embittered that you think that there's no hope for change. And maybe 5 years from now, we look at Charlie Adelson and he's a different person. I mean, I feel like it has to affect you, right? It has to humble you and affect you.
I think he's only sorry that he got caught, but whatever.
Yeah. Just no concern for Dan Markel. He couldn't even say something sympathetic when he made his one-liner at his sentencing.
I don't understand. That's the same thing. Like it's kind of akin to what you're saying about Wendy. Like, yes, you could protect yourself, but you need to do it to that length. Yes, you could say you're innocent, but can't you also say, I feel awful for the Markel family, but I maintain my innocence. Like, what would that, and I'm sure who's ever advising him has a reason there for that, but I think it would have been disingenuous, but it still would have, I don't know, it would have been more effective.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys want to answer this? Why do you think Donna's only obsessed with Wendy's kids and none of her other grandkids?
I'll start. I mean, I think obviously they were estranged from Rob.
Right.
One thing I thought was interesting is somebody had sent us, somebody wishing Wendy, like, in the high school yearbook, you have kind of like from the Adelson family, like you take out an ad. And I looked at the ad and it didn't even have Rob. It had like, we're so proud of you. And it actually said something like, you are our sunshine. But it didn't have Rob. And I'm thinking he's probably in his early 20s. So he was that estranged early. But I feel like Rob, kind of was like, my mom is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I want to move on from her. I don't want to deal with it. And I think she resented him. And then, so and Charlie only had a son, 5 years ago. So, these kids are 14 and 13. So I think that's probably one reason. And because Wendy was the princess. And I thought Georgia Chapman, what did she say? Part bad boy and part, what did she say? Part thug, part mama's boy. Like, you know what I mean? She said she used that like dichotomy about Charlie,
Yeah, totally agree. They figured they could control Wendy's kids, Wendy and Dan's kids more. And, they didn't approve of Rob's wife in the first place. Yeah. Okay, this is an easy question, Bruce.
Katie. Hi, Katie. I enjoy your work. I watch your everything, your morning coffee stuff, everything. And I know your family story, and my heart goes out to you for that. Go to the Comedy Cellar in Greenwich Village, because they have three. They're so popular. They have 3 clubs, so you just go from one to the other. And they have like the other clubs are really good in New York too, but the Comedy Cellar has all the cool. You'll see Seinfeld there when he wants to come and do comedy. Jeffrey Ross. You'll see all the hot guys certainly at the Comedy Cellar.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, so some people are mentioning. Oh yeah. Okay, so Angela just recommended.
Work this club, yes. Comedy Cellar, yes. All good places.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see.
Your
okay.
club, Charlie Goodnight, was a fantastic. You're the one in Raleigh. Phenomenal club, really, and ran for a zillion years.
Yeah.
And one of the comics that did let me tell you one story, because you asked me about the jail. So one of my friends did a show at that Lompoc Penitentiary, and a guy comes up to him at the end of the show, one of the convicts. He goes, "Hey, I really love the show. You worked for me once." Goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I'm blank blank." And this guy used to own a comedy club that we all loved, and he got busted for, I guess, really cooking the books, and he wound up. Oh, he was in the audience. So I do remember that about the prison shows.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's try to wrap things up here. Okay, Rosemary said Donna comes. I don't think I can do like a whole nightly live stream like Mentor Lawyer did. And I think, wasn't there one time that Carl left his live stream running the whole night and people just kept chatting and chatting?
Great. It was great.
Even though he was gone. Great. Bruce, you were on it?
Yeah, he did it 2 times. And it really brought out, it was so spooky. It was great because people just were like, I'm a night owl. So I was there at like 5:30 in the morning. I'm going, it's going strong. People from all around the world. Remember that British woman that used to follow the case? She had long blonde hair and she was really into it for a while. And then she kind of dropped off for the 3rd trial.
Was that
nice
Susan?
lady? A British woman who lives in England. And
the lounge crime bar, bar crime.
And yes. she knew this case like the 2 of you know it, and knew and a Brit who knew legalese and knew American justice system and everything. And but she dropped off this last trial. I didn't see anything from her.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing people would come together for this.
Yeah. Well, I did contact her to see if she wanted to be a guest on the live stream, because I keep feeling like I need more female guests, women on my show. But the problem is most of the time, the women that I ask, they're too shy. They don't want to put up with all the negativity and all the criticism they're probably going to get from some crazy, mean viewers out there. And
how about next time I wear a dress? No?
You want to wear a dress? Okay.
I'll give it a shot if you need women. Why not?
We're open to everybody. Yeah. But and I've had other women say they're going to be on the show, but then they back out at the last minute. And it's so frustrating. It's like I'm trying to get some diversity with my guests, but it's really hard. But anyway, so I did reach out to her, and she says she's just way too busy with her new job. So that's why she hasn't been doing YouTube much.
All right.
Yeah, new job. So, okay, Donna comes across as two-faced and backstabbing. Thank you, Judy, for confirming insight into Donna's personality. Yep, she sounded on those phone calls very vindictive toward any slight against her. Yeah, including ranting and railing against Wendy, too. Yeah. Like everything is like an insult to her personally. Yeah.
Are you coming down this week for the event?
Oh, no, I can't. I have to work. So, yeah.
I forgot about
Sorry.
that.
Yeah, but that's great that you're going to go. Didn't you say it's actually really close to where you are,
It's like,
Bruce?
like 25 miles away. It's not far at all. No.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
get to meet Steve. That's a big
exactly.
And you also get to meet Ruth Markel.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce, do you have a YouTube channel?
No, you just Google my name and you'll see some things. But no, this is my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Thank you. Although, did you think about creating one? A lot of people are getting into it.
No.
Okay.
No, I retired. I garden and I play with cats all day. It's a I'm not in show business anymore.
Okay.
I just retain the great stories.
Okay. I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm so behind with all these comments.
Where Steve is broadcasting from, I won't mention names, is a fantastic community down here that I have performed at a great deal. In fact, my very first girlfriend, her parents moved there. So that I know that I don't know where their whereabouts now. This is like 30 plus 40 years ago. But yes, it's a tremendous community that you're at, and they really go all out for their shows. And they've had some of the biggest. Freddie Roman used to live where your parents were, and he was a big Catskill comedian. And he passed away about 2 years ago. But he was like the most famous.
But yeah.
So he was the most famous member of HR.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. See, you should have Kathy on. Judy, you see that she just offered to come on. Katie Cool Lady.
Yes. Yeah. I did ask her to come on tonight, but she's busy. So hopefully next time. Thank you, Katie or Kathy.
She play the domestic coordinator.
Yeah. Be the domestic coordinator. Okay. Well, somebody said that we are very one-sided. So we should be more level.
Oh.
Well, I mean, we can do whatever we want with our channel. And I think we have done tons of sleuthing, reading, listening to the evidence and the trials. So that's why we come to our opinions on the case, but people are welcome to create their own YouTube channels if they want to. So what's your take on that, Steve? Do you guys get criticism too, that you're one-sided?
Yeah, I think so. And there's commenters of, anybody who, it's kind of like that expression, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. You're going to get it regardless. You put yourself out there, whether you're Bruce on stage or whether you're a YouTuber, and so people have said any number of things. And it's kind of, sometimes it's constructive. I think as a news person and that background, you are trying to look at it somewhat objectively. The difference, I think, is like, this new media gives you more latitude. I think media has changed, even though 25, 30 years ago, a guy like Bernard Goldberg could write a book called Biased and talk about the bias of the mainstream media networks. And you see Fox, I think, like, a lot of people are watching these channels for affirmation, not information. But I think we've tried to, offer a forum for people who might have positive things to say about the Adelsons, or, they're not helping themselves. If they were so innocent, then why aren't there 30 of their friends in the courtroom, walking up and back around Tallahassee protesting justice for Charlie, So I think that's part of it. I don't know what the two sides are, that one side said killing is bad and the other side saying killing is good, or maybe they didn't kill him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't really feel like giving a platform to Dr. Graber. So, people can do their own YouTube channels, write their own op-eds if they're passionate about telling the other side. So, okay. So Bruce, do you play pickleball? And did you ever bump shoulders with Sorrel Brook or John Schneider?
Okay, no on the pickleball. I have a spin bike. That's my I don't know who John Schneider or Sorrel Brook is. I'm probably an old fogey. Who are these people? Do you know? They must be young comedians, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know who those people are.
They're from Dukes of Hazzard. I don't know.
Oh, the Dukes of Hazzard guy with blonde hair. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's him. How would I know him? Out of all the people, I do know a lot of people, but how would I know that guy? No, that was John Schneider.
I met John Schneider. I met both of them. I met Tom.
When I moved to
Bo and Luke Duke, because he became a singer, Bo Duke or Luke Duke. But yeah, sorry.
When I lived in Brooklyn, I was in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I lived at this. I was in the upstairs of a home, and the guy told me that Schneider. No, the guy who. No, not that. Oh, no, that's what's his name? Pat. No, this was a guy, Ricky Schroeder. It was Ricky Schroeder's grandmother lived in that unit. So that's all. And I didn't really, I know he was on a TV show. I didn't know, but I once found, I was looking, it was a brick, half the wall was brick. And I once was touching it. It was like I think a St. Christopher's medal it's called. And it was placed way up high and I was able to reach it. And I always said, if I ever run into Ricky Schroeder, I'll let him know that I maybe saw his grandmother's St. Christopher's medal. Boring story. Why did I even go there? Don't know.
Okay, because somebody asked if you knew certain people.
No place for that story. All right.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce, who's your favorite comedian?
My favorite, I have two. One was Robert Klein, and the other it was Jackie Mason. And I never got to hang out with Robert Klein. I got to meet him a few times, but I spent a lot of time with Jackie Mason. That's another podcast in itself. But yes, and I've met everybody. I also love Richard Lewis. I think he's fantastic. And when I was a doorman at the Improv, when I first moved out, until I got good enough to be able to go on stage, he was very nice to me. And I saw Larry David, everybody who's who you see now that is my age, that's really, really famous. They all came through those doors. And then I went and got on at the Comedy Store, and that was a whole different group of people. And one day, if you want to interview me about show business, Judy, I'll tell you the Paul Newman and Robin Williams story. That's a very interesting story. I've never told that publicly. I have weird stories where people don't come off, like as you see them in real life. But that one I'd be willing to go into one time if you want.
Do you want to say it now?
No, because it's not the time and place. These are that's when you want to do juicy show business stuff, I'll do that. But this is not. We're here to show respect and above all have justice for Dan Markel, not about my non-career.
Okay. But why do you have a New York accent if you're, he's not from California. Didn't you grow up in Connecticut?
No, I grew up 55 miles from New York, but in Connecticut. My mother was from the Bronx, New York. So maybe that side of my family had sort of they had real New York accents. But, I don't know. I guess if you actually go to Connecticut and meet people from my area, you'll see that we have this. It's a kind of an accent. It's not really a New York accent, but it's not a New England accent where they talk, like that. That's as you go farther up the line to Boston and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Let's see. Steve, do you know the answer? Will Joel get a guest that knows that distribution center where Charlie is right now? That Northwest Florida.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah. I'm sure, we will do that. Yeah, we definitely try and react to the news all the time. And
that's a very isolated part of Florida where he's at.
Yeah.
Chipley.
Yeah, I think for sure, Kathy. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Chipley, Florida is where Jeremy Mutz has his practice now.
Yeah. So Jeremy would be that person. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Angela says she liked David Brenner.
Great. He was great. Never met him, but a very, very funny guy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. Is Donna still in the unalive room? That's what I'm not sure, because even at that hearing, I mean, what really came out to me at the hearing was that Donna deserved to be in that isolation place. The jail had good reason to be sticking her in isolation because she had already made these threats of suicide. So I don't think she's going to be let out until a psychiatrist feels that she is no longer at suicide risk. So who was it that said that? Yeah, it might have been one of the attorneys that was on my show or STS or something, that she would still be periodically monitored. And once they don't think she's a risk, then she gets out. Yeah. So I'm not sure where exactly she is now, though. Yeah.
I wonder if they play Wheel of Fortune there.
Yeah. I mean, Jeremy said they do have activities once you're not in isolation. They would have things like sewing classes or arts and crafts and stuff for the women. I heard that somewhere. Yeah. So maybe she could start organizing game show, play games and stuff. I don't know.
She has experience,
Yeah, turn her life around by trying to create activities for the ladies in jail. Yeah, Bruce, did you perform at this place, Pips?
No, Pips. No, Pips. When I got to New York, Pips was that neighborhood turned into a very Russian area, so it lost its cachet of what it used to be. So that's Sheepshead Bay, and great restaurants there. But no, I never performed there. Thanks, Pete.
Okay. Yeah, somebody likes your laugh. Okay. Is it true Wendy said she thought she was a suspect in her? No, I think, okay, my mind is getting jumbled up with so many people's takes on things, but I think that she mentioned that during her police interview, right? That she thought she was a suspect in the car.
Yeah, I remember it like that too. She told Isom that.
Yeah. But that doesn't, to me, it didn't seem really alarming, because if the police come and put you in a car or say they want to talk to you, I think most people would start thinking, like, am I a suspect for some crime? I don't know. I mean, yeah. So anyway.
That's how the boss saw it, right? He was very matter of fact, like, hey, I figured you would think I'm a suspect.
Yeah. Great to see you, Steve Cohen. Hats off to you. You do great work.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Bruce and Steve are pleasant guests that you'd actually want to hang out with. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah. Oh, well, I agree.
Come on by. Look at that. They got the wine up there. Always good to hang out.
Oh, okay. So maybe you have more booze than John Singer does in the background, right?
Yeah.
On the show. Do you have Bullet?
No.
No Bullet bourbon? Bullet rye?
My friend comes down here and he buys antiques from people, from senior citizens that want cash for stuff. So every so often he comes to a home. Maybe the person has passed away and there's a lot of stuff that they're getting rid of. And some of these people have full bars, and it's illegal for my friend to sell the liquor to take it to New York and sell. So he doesn't get involved with that. So when he hits a home like that, he gives me all the booze, and then I call all the local comedians, and they come by, and I give it away to them, because I don't really drink either. And my friend who does the antiques, his brother was a very famous comedian, but I won't talk about that. But I have I know a lot of people in show business, and I met their families, and I stay in touch with everybody now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Mm-hmm. Okay, Casey, we're jumping around from topic to topic, but she wants to know why Suicide Watch inmates can't have paper. How is paper risky? This person calling himself Shadrick says because people try to choke themselves with paper. Is that what you guys?
Last time I tried it, I have no idea. Who knows? Suicide.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, somebody who's suicidal could choke themselves with a paper, right? Or I don't know, could you give yourself 1,000 paper cuts or something? I don't know. Yeah. But you do hear of people making weapons from weird things, like sharpening the toothbrushes. That's why they don't have real toothbrushes in jail, is because you could sharpen it into a weapon and stab somebody with a regular toothbrush.
And
So,
if anybody knows something about toothbrushes, it's Donna Adelson. So there you
yeah,
go.
and Charlie. Yeah.
It's like I Googled it and just said only ruled paper, no cotton paper. Spiral binded notebooks are prohibited. Obviously, right? Like the old spiral notebooks, you could take that metal and do stuff,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think I should end this because I do have a bunch of other stuff to
Can we
take
go
care of.
another 5 hours?
Sorry,
Yeah.
you guys. I can't be like Carl Steinbeck and or Mentor Lawyer doing these marathon live streams and stuff.
I'm lucky I didn't have to pee this whole time. I drank a whole bottle of water.
No, I think for very long live streams, people are okay if the host has to get up and use the bathroom. Or I hope James had something to eat while he was actually there, doing all the wiretap, or not wiretap, the jail phone calls and stuff. So, okay. Well, any quick parting words from you guys?
I was just gonna say thank you for you, Judy, and Bruce, for allowing me to come on with you. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. It was nice to, field some of your questions from your loyal listeners and viewers, as I am one of them. And keep up the great work, Judy. I know how hard you work, and just keep at it, keep pushing, and I wish you all the success in the world. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Judy. Steve, I'll see you Wednesday.
I look
I
forward
like to arrive early. I'm leaving now, so I'll be there. I'll be in the parking lot.
I'm always like never on time, but it should be a nice event, so I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm sure pretty much everybody here is already subscribed to Surviving the Survivor. Great podcast. And I remember when you guys had maybe 1,000 subscribers, and the old videos got maybe a few hundred views or something. So it's just amazing how much Surviving the Survivor has grown in just this year. So congratulations to you and Joel, Carm, COE. Yeah. Also, we should help market the Dan Markel Memorial Fund, where people who are able to donate can make a donation. It's www.hillelontario.org. So please check that out. Okay. So thank you guys again. I'm sorry I do have to get going, and I need something else to drink too. So have a good evening and a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Take
Thanks
care.
for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.